Well, I started out in sales, working for a company selling rainbow cleaning systems, door to door, of all things. That was back in 1995, 94, something like that. It was an interesting experience. Learned a lot from that because selling door to door it's not fun, not easy, hard. Had to learn some things the hard way. But it launched me on a love for working with people and understanding people and patterns and why people do certain things, stuff like that. So that's why I developed this course, is because I wanted to look at sales not from tactics, but from things that really help at the right time. So this is broke down for 5 weeks, 5 different areas that will give good word tracks, good things to say, but it will teach you how to say it at the right time with the right focus. And that's what this one is about today, is selling with focus. So real quick, I have a question at the top of that. How long have you been in sales? Sales, I think, is probably my favorite thing because, like I said, I love people. I love working with people all the time. One of the things that I like to do whenever I'm training people is really dig into what you understand and what your understanding of sales is. So before we get into that a little bit, I want to do a little exercise. Partner up or get together somehow, but we're going to do an interview essentially between 2 of you. So who wants to be the 2? Doesn't matter. It's going to be super easy. Here's what you're going to talk about, so that way you can decide. You're going to talk about your favorite vacation. So it's super easy. Like I said, it's super easy. It's you 2. Who's the interviewer?
I guess I can ask.
Okay. John, you'll be the interviewee talking about your favorite vacation. I'm going to let you go ahead and go, Jorge. That makes sense. And here's the thing, is we get in sales, you have to ask questions. But in all honesty, we are not trained growing up to ask questions. We're told to give answers. If you think back to school, you're told what's the right answer. You have to give the right answer. Everything is about how we answer something. Therefore, it's hard to ask questions a lot of times at the right time because we're not necessarily trained that way. When you think of sales, what do you think of? And we'll just do this. What are some words you think of? Okay. Present. Think of Tony. With an I, right?
Yes.
Well, when you hear sales, or what do you think of sales?
I think of formal wear.
I'll just put a tire, if that works.
Yeah.
That's how you spell it, isn't it? What else? Communication.
It has a negative connotation to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
That's a word.
Dishonest.
Dishonest.
Oh, that's what it sounded to me.
Okay. What about salesperson? What do you think of whenever you think of salesperson, though?
Salesperson, door knocking.
Yeah, I think of it like the old-fashioned department store.
I think of money a lot when I think of sales. It's the main focus over
Yeah.
Right? The way we approach sales is based on our belief of what sales is. So whatever you believe about selling is how you approach selling. There's a lot of times, and I didn't learn this for a while and learned it much more recently. When I am walking through like Walmart or Sam's Club, and you have the DirecTV person or the AT&T person, they stop you and they're trying to sell you something. What's your reaction?
Not interested.
Not interested, right? I'm push off. Thank you, I'm good, right? What if you embrace the sale process and learn from how they're selling? So what I learned for myself is that I had some of these, like the negative connotations that you were talking about, of sales and salespeople. So whenever anyone came or looked like they were trying to sell me something, I automatically put up a wall. The same thing happens psychologically when we try to sell something. We psychologically think they're going to think I'm pushy. They're going to think I'm dishonest, or they're going to think negative things about me, so they're going to have this wall put up, and it affects how we approach them when we're selling. So what I started doing is I started embracing all of I get hit up on LinkedIn all the time. People trying to sell me something on LinkedIn all the time. So what I do is, instead of just saying no thank you or ignoring it, I read through their post and I see how they word stuff now. I'm like, okay, that didn't work for me. So I make a mental note, okay, that's not working, I move on. Others, I'm like, ooh, I like how they worded that. Now I can change something that I get. I started actually embracing how people sold to me, not because I was going to buy it, but I wanted to learn. And it started to shift some of my understanding of what sales is. John, you've been selling for 7 years, right? Mm-hmm. Tony, 3? Jorge, what was yours again? 2.5? So almost 3. What if I told you you've been selling a lot longer than that? Who's been, you're married. Are you married, Tony? Dating anyone or have been in a dating relationship ever? Okay. Think about the process that you went through. What did you do whenever you first met? We go through a series of conversations and questions trying to find out if that person's compatible with us. I mean, that's what it is. Selling is the same thing. When you get and meet a new client, you go through a very specific process on what you do to approach that client. First of all, I do want to say this. Sales is not convincing someone to buy something they don't want, don't need, and can't afford. That is not selling. It's actually manipulating because you're doing it for yourself and your own purposes. Selling is persuading people. It's persuading someone to do something they already want to do. Right? You guys sell houses. Whenever you get a new client, you already know they want to buy a house. It's a given. What your job is to persuade them to make the decision that they already want to make. And you got to do that through a series of questions and understanding, and what you have to do is you have to gain focus. And that's why I titled this Sell with Focus, because your job at the very beginning when you first meet a client is to understand 3 very, very simple things. Those 3 things make or break your sale process if you don't do them. Before I get into them, let me go back to the conversation that we had with questions. Why do you think it's good or so good to ask really good questions? Why do you think that matters? Process is very similar to dating or in the process of getting married and finding that compatibility with someone. You go through those questions, you go through and ask good questions because you want to get to those three things that I'm talking about. The first thing is what? The second one, and this is super easy to remember these because it's what, how, and why.
And that's when when you first meet a client.
Yeah. So what questions do you typically ask what are 3 questions that you ask? And write them down. 3 questions that you already ask currently a client when you first meet them. So this is my favorite question to ask right off the bat, and it's what got you in the market, which is very similar. I think you already mentioned that one. Okay, so why, or why are you looking to move, or what? The reason I word it, what got you in the market, is because it allows them to initially, without threat, open up some of the things that are either wrong or that they're looking for to make a change. They have a problem somewhere, which is why they're moving or why they're in the market. Your job with the questions is to uncover what that problem actually is. And that's where this comes in. What is their current situation? What is the problem that they currently have? A lot of times when we start to uncover what that problem is, we jump really quickly to how. And this is how your solution benefits their problem. That's good because you want to understand how your solution benefits it, but you also want to make sure you understand what the real problem is. Because there's a lot of problems that they face. They may want to downsize, but why do they want to downsize? Why, or like you asked, why are you looking to move, is a good question to help dig a little bit deeper into that. Because you want to understand, like I said, what their situation is, how your solution benefits their problem. And this is where most salespeople stop. They figure out, okay, this is how I benefit. Boom, let's go. I know how I'm going to do it. But they don't get to why. Why is your solution going to be a benefit to them? Why is that important to them? Everyone has their own why. Could be, I need a greater sense of freedom. I need more control. My world's upside down right now. I'm losing everything. I need to get something and gain control back. These are the things These are the ones, whenever you get into this understanding of why it's important to them, they literally can't help buy. So it looks like this. Here, let's go back to this. What you think leads to a specific belief, right? That belief leads to faith or doubt. It leads to a feeling. Sorry, that belief leads to faith or doubt, which then leads to a feeling. Have you ever been, let's do this. What was the last time you purchased something big? Has anyone purchased a car lately?
Well, back in December. Yeah.
Okay. Think about the last time you purchased, and we'll just go with a car, because that's one of the biggest, that and the houses are the two biggest purchases, right?
Easy car salesman.
I am. So the last time you purchased a car, think about when you walked into the dealership. What'd you feel like?
Excitement.
Okay. Excited? Okay. What about whenever you were going through the process, you went on the test drive, you come back in, and they put the numbers down in front of you. So here's how it plays out, because that's a perfect example, right? Here's the what their situation is, what the problem is. Your customers or your clients need a new house, whatever that looks like. You uncover their what. Okay? This is the focus. And what you're doing is you're trying to understand what their situation is, and you end up developing a belief about their situation. Right? That belief triggers within you certain emotions, either faith that they're going to be able to buy, or doubt. Have you ever walked into a showing where you get into a conversation with the customer and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, yeah, they're not going to buy anything? Right? You've been there? Right? Whatever we believe leads to an emotion that we have. That emotion then leads to some type of action. Faith, in John's purchase experience, he felt at ease. In fact, if you really break it down, it's anticipation. Anticipation leads to excitement. It leads us to feel at ease in a situation because we're anticipating a good outcome. Doubt leads to anxiety. Right? The reason anyone feels nervous buying anything is because they doubt the outcome will be beneficial to them. Anticipation leads to buying. Anxiety prevents buying. Every customer you have, every client, is going to fall into these two areas. That's why whenever you focus on what their situation is, how your solution is going to benefit them, and why that's important, you help target and focus your customer or your client to go through this process into anticipation. And by doing that, they literally can't help but buy. So what are good questions to ask? That can be a good one. If you start with why are you in the market or what got you in the market, you also mentioned how long have you been in the market is a good one. How's that process been going are good questions because it allows you to understand and dig into what those what they're experiencing already.
Or that's your point.
No, I was going to say, and I like what you mentioned as far as, do you understand the steps of the process? Because that's part of what selling is educating. And how we, like you were saying, how we educate our clients through the process.
Yeah.
And we can only do that if we understand these things. Otherwise, and I have salespeople that I've talked with and have trained that they go out and they just start shooting, like throwing stuff out, hoping that something sticks. And it doesn't, because you can't hit a bullseye with a shotgun. You might hit one in there, but everything else is going to be on the outside. And that's what this is really about, is trying to focus what you understand from your client so that then you can change that focus to how it plays out, like you were talking about, going through every step of the process. Obviously, a house, you're not going to meet them one day and then it's sold. Generally speaking, I know it did happen a few times this last year. But generally speaking, it's not, hey, good to meet you, I'm Tony, here's your house. It's a process that takes some time. And having that time of educating also helps open up and allow you to gain more focus into what their situation is, how it's your solution, and whatever the solution is obviously going to change dramatically with all the different houses that you guys have and that you can look at, because then you can focus how this house fits their problem. And then why is that important to them? Well, we need to be in a safe place. Okay, this is a gated community, you have all this, and then you can target and focus all of that information into the process that builds anticipation and buying, instead of creating, like you were talking about, that anxiety that comes with a huge purchase. What questions or what areas would be beneficial for you guys in this initial process that you've been experiencing either some gaps or something else that might work better? Building, because here's the thing, is one, you have to be able to create trust, like you mentioned earlier. You have to be able to create trust very quickly, because there is huge competition out there for realtors. I mean, it's huge, same as in car sales or anything else. There's so much competition that if you don't set yourself apart from the competition by doing things a little bit differently, I say differently because everyone typically does the same thing, but if you throw something else in there that's a little different, and you're spending time understanding what their situation is, how you're able to benefit it, because you have all sorts of resources to be able to benefit. Part of that comes, and this area comes from product knowledge and knowing the houses that you have in the market, and then also it comes from your competition. How does the competition do it? How do other realtors approach their selling? And then why is what we do for our customers, why is this important to them? And I'll give you this. There are generally 5 reasons people, or 5 triggers of emotion for reasons people buy. Save time. This is a good one for people who want to move quickly. Save money. Could be a reason they're downsizing, because they're trying to save money. something like that. Security. That's actually a U. Peace of mind or confidence. And then the last one is control. Here's where, and this one, and I tell people all the time, this is the one salespeople have the hardest time with, is relinquishing control. Because they believe that if they relinquish control to the buyer, they won't get a sale, which isn't true if you do it the right way. If you focus on understanding what their situation is, how you're benefiting them, and why that's important, then you can say it's entirely up to you. I've already shown you why this is important to you. I'm helping you find more freedom. You have much more security in this area. You said you were interested in finding a safe place for your kids to grow up. These are excellent schools. All of these reasons are why it's important to you. Here's how I'm going to, and I'm giving you a prequel. Here's how I'm going to do it, and this is what it looks like to answer that question. That's the basic. But they're buying, and these 5 things are, and you can narrow it to any number of these 5 things, on what triggers their emotion of anticipation to buy. And you tell them, oh, I'm saving you $20,000 right here on this house. And then in a few weeks, I'll show you how to, and show you some things on how to, where you're not cutting your commission to do it. Because that's the first thing big purchasers do.
You guys are like, what date is that?
When we come out,
See you in a couple weeks.
and when we talk about framing the offer, that's where you can frame it in a way where it reverses all of this. Yeah. But it's going to focus on these 5 things and why it's important to your customer. And that's why I say, if you can get to the why, they can't help but buy. I love that rhyme because it sticks in my head. But yeah, save time, save money, have a greater sense of security, peace of mind or confidence in their situation, and then control. Because they're the ones that are buying. I mean, that's why they're there, is they need to buy something. I don't need to sell it. And that's one of the flips. Most salespeople, I think, approach this process of, I need to sell a house. So I'm going to do everything I can to sell the house. Instead of, my customer needs to buy a house. I'm going to do everything I can to ensure that my customer can buy a house from me. A little different flip in the psychology of how we, because the sales process, and this is the same no matter what you're selling. Because people, and we'll get into this too, why they buy. There's a psychology behind why people buy what they buy. And ultimately it's because they want it. You just want them to make them want it from you.